Hello and welcome. I am the Green Dragon, and today we will begin voting or accepting suggestions for a new Let's Play I'm gonna be starting, namely that of Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. And let's head into a new game so I can show you the possible options here. Okay, so essentially, as some of you might have guessed, we play a vampire. So there are 7 clans to choose from, and I will be accepting your votes or suggestions or whatever on how to play the game and what clan to pick. So in this video I will essentially go through the 7 available clans and tell you a thing or two about them as far as I know. So the first clan is the Bruiser. Essentially they are rebels and anarchists. They're your basic fuck the system guys. And well, yeah, they're not very intellectual, they're more of like thugs in the modern days, whereas in the history they have at times been more philosophical and idealistic. Like, I mean, they're still idealistic, but it's in a, I suppose, more naive, just fuck the system kind of way than being a rebel with a cause kind of thing. So that's the Bruiser. They're essentially anarchistic rebels. Moving on, we have the Gangrel, who are essentially loners and drifters, and they live in the wild and they're one with the nature. They have this whole animal kingdom thing going on. And yes, well, that's essentially it. They're mostly on their own. They're very close to nature, and yes, of course, abilities. They have different abilities. Let's go back for a second and look at the abilities. Each vampire clan has 3 disciplines, which are essentially your vampire powers, and they're different for each clan, although some of them can be used by several different clans. In the case of Bruiser, this is celerity, which is essentially supernatural speed, which is at the highest levels it allows you to do the whole matrix thing. It's very fun. Then you have potence, which is again a boost to your basic abilities. It's another passive discipline, boosts your strength and allows you to deal vast amounts of damage. And then you have a presence, which essentially projects an aura of dread or awe or whatever around you, and in this patch it can also be used in dialogue. But anyway, essentially it weakens your enemies when you fight them, and that's it. Now for Gangrel we have animalism, which is essentially, well, in this case it is, well, in the lore it is the ability to affect the animal kingdom, like commanding animals, possessing them, and so on, as far as I understand. But in this it allows you to do several magic-like things. Well, yeah. Then you have fortitude, which boosts your armor, for the lack of a better term, and you have protean, which essentially allows you to take on the attributes of various animals. Like level 1 would be Gleam of the Red Eye, which allows you to see in the dark and gives you a slight boost to it. Second level is Feral Claws, which gives you claws, and so on. Essentially it's a passive discipline which you activate and it turns you into a killing machine. Moving on, we have Malkayvyun, and this clan I will definitely be playing. If you vote for something else, then we will play this as a second Let's Play later on, down the line, sometime. And yeah, the Let's Plays I'm kind of gonna do them when I feel like it, without a set plan, so it might be a while until we get to the Malkayvyun if you know, if we go with this first, with something else first. Now, Malkayvyuns are essentially batshit crazy. They, way back down the line, their vampire forefather was very psychic, and his clan, through a lot of craziness, essentially ended up, well, okay, his clan ended up absorbing the soul of said forefather, and now he lives in the minds of all the Malkayvyuns, essentially making them crazy with the visions he gives them. But Malkayvyuns are more perceptive of the unseen reality around them. So all their dialogue reflects this state. You sometimes get hints of things further along the storyline in your dialogue responses because of this, and well, they're just batshit crazy and funny to play. And as for disciplines, they have aspects which essentially boost your perceptions, gives you the ability to see in the dark, boost your stats, and so on. The mentation, which is really fun, it allows you to wield a range of cool powers, but, and this is important, it allows you to affect the minds of people during dialogue sometimes, and that is really fun. This is the most fun part of playing Malkayvyun. You can literally fuck with people's heads using vampire magic. It's awesome. And then you have Obfuscate, which essentially is a stealth ability. First level just allows you to hide unseen while you're not moving. Second level allows you to move while you're crouching, and the last level allows you to freely interact with the world without being seen, as long as you don't actually bump into people or attack them, which is awesome. Moving on, we have the Nosferatu. Essentially, they are, well, each clan tends to have some sort of negative associated with it. Like Gangrel take on the attributes of various animals if they frenzy, namely lose control to their vampiric natures. Whereas Nosferatu, well, they're ugly as fuck. And that's their particular breed of vampire curse. As such, they stay out of society, tend to lurk in the cellars, and they tend to rely on stealth and survive by brokering information between various parties. And as such, they have a great deal of influence because they're really good at finding stuff out. Now, as for abilities, they have Animalism, which allows you to, like I said, do stuff with Animal Kingdom. Nightfist Raven's essentially a stun ability. Then you have, well, Burrowing Beetle, which causes damage, and so on. Then you have Obfuscate, and then you have Potence, which was supernatural strength. I've never really played the game through with Nosferatu before, because their very appearance can be a masquerade breach, which essentially means that vampires have to hide their natures from the people around them. Otherwise, you get vampire hunters coming to kill them. And vampires, they are very strong individually, but they have crippling weaknesses like sunlight, fire. Hell, you can just cut their heads off if you want to be done with them. And humanity is large, and they have flamethrowers essentially. And if a lot of people come after you with flamethrowers, you're fucked. So vampires try to stay hidden. And so if you have too many masquerade breaches, first of all, hunters will come after you, but your ruler will actually have you executed because you're endangering the whole community. And that is, as far as I know, a problem with the Nosferatu, because if you're too close to people, I mean, well, yeah, well, look at this guy, he's not exactly natural, if you know what I mean. So, yeah. Then we have the Toreador. Now, this clan is interesting. They're most in touch with humanity. They're essentially, well, they're kind of like the Cullens in Twilight. They stay in touch with humanity, they play nice, they worry about arts and poetry, and they really, well, they stay in touch with their humanity, and they really, they're all about beauty and art, really. That's what they're about. They're artists, essentially, and they believe in art, on top of that. As for abilities, they have Auspex, Celerity, and Presence, another clan which has all passive disciplines. And they have bonus to appearance, whereas Malkayvyun's had bonus to inspection. Oh, and I remembered. Nosferatu can never have an appearance above 0, which is, well, a reflection of their weakness further. Malkayvyuns are crazy. They did not have anything special. Bruiser lose control more easily. That's also something that needs to be remembered, but that's not that important. We'll deal with it when we come to it. Now, Tremere. Tremere are not one of the original clans which were founded way back in the time by an original forefather. Instead, they started out as mortal mages, and they used their magic to transform themselves into vampires, and then one of them, their leader, ended up finding an ancient of Salute, namely, and that probably doesn't mean anything to you, but anyway, they found an ancient of another clan, and they sucked him dry. He sucked said ancient dry to gain his power, and then they essentially destroyed and absorbed the power of that entire clan. So now that clan is mostly extinct, and you have the Tremere. And they, well, they're mistrusted, they're scheming, and they're very sort of, well, they're not standoffish per se, but they're very, I mean, they stick together and they keep their secret secret, if you know what I mean. They're very tight with each other. So for disciplines we have Auspex, which we have seen before, which also allows you to see auras. We have Dominate, which allows you to affect people through dialogue, and in this patch Tremere can do it too, although in the original game they could not. And as you can see, I'm running on the 8.4 plus unofficial patch, and since I've mostly played the original game, I'm not so familiar with this version of the patch, but it shouldn't change too much. I've played a little bit and it seems okay. And also they have Thaumaturgy. Now, they were mortal mages when they started out, but their mortal magic no longer worked when they became vampires. So that left them in a tight spot, and using their understanding of magic, they were able to adapt in order to use the power of their blood to do magic of a different kind. So that gives them a great deal of power. It gives them a unique service that they can offer other clans and gain influence through that, because most of these abilities are pretty limited, whereas Thaumaturgy can do a great many things, and in the lore at least, although we won't be able to any such thing here, it could carry out like different rituals which could do many different things. And anyway, it's not just an ability, it's actual magic, as more so than the other disciplines by a great deal. Such as it is very fun to play, it's very powerful, but, well, all of the disciplines are powerful if you take them far enough. So that's not really much of a point. By the time you get 5th level of some discipline, I mean, it's meant to be powerful. That's like the highest level of power that you can get as a vampire, unless you're like really old and really close to the original vampire forefather. So that's their ability. They can really do magic, and that's what they rely on, and that's their strength. That, and they stick together. They have this whole secret society pyramid thing going on. So they're sort of like a secret society within a secret society, and it might be fun to roleplay one who is like born outside the said pyramid and tries to become part of the clan. And yes, that should be interesting. And then finally we have the Ventral. Essentially they're your basic rich kids slash aristocrats. They believe they are and should be in charge of everything. they're essentially rulers, and this aristocratic crap translates into them being less able to feed off bombs, and they can't feed off animals entirely in this game. And yes, essentially they're your more important than thou smug little assholes. I don't like them much, but it can be fun to play a sort of a negative character which gets what's coming to them, to your ending choice. So we might want to try that. I'm open to suggestions. Personally, if enough time goes by with very few or no suggestions, I'll probably go for Malkayvyun. But anyway, Tremere again have Dominate, Fortitude, so that it can take a beating, and Presence, which, as I mentioned closer to the beginning with the Bruiser and the Toreador, affects people's heads. It's essentially, oh my god, he's so scary, I can't attack that. It makes people function less effectively because of that. And there's a chance that they'll become mesmerized because of it. So, yes, essentially, those are the options, and looking forward to your suggestions, I suppose. Now, is there anything else I need to mention? Well, about the game itself. Essentially, you're a young vampire, you're beaten over the head, turned into a vampire and thrown into this world of ancient monsters and convoluted schemes where you have to somehow survive. And well, that's essentially it. Mostly everyone ends up crapping on you and you just do what you have to do. So, make sure to leave your preferences, and I'll see you guys in a later video.